Let's begin this segment in Sudan, where the Finance Minister Ibrahim El-Badawi says the country needs up to $5 billion in budget support to avert economic collapse and launch reforms after the ouster of veteran ruler Omar al-Bashir. The country in crisis since losing most of its oil wealth with South Sudan's secession in 2011 has only enough foreign currency reserves to fund imports for a few weeks. Sudan has had some support for fuel and wheat imports, but about 65% of its 44 million people live in poverty, and it needs up to $2 billion in development funding, along with a hope for $2 billion from Arab development funds. Outlining reform plans in detail for the first time, El-Badawi said public salaries would need to be increased and a social support network established to prepare for the painful removal of fuel and food subsidies. And Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta has approved a data protection law which complies with European Union legal standards as it looks to bolster investments in its information technology sector. The East African nation has attracted foreign firms with innovations such as Safaricom's M-Pesa mobile money services, but the lack of safeguards in handling personal data has held it back from its full potential. The new law sets out restrictions on how personally identifiable data obtained by firms and government entities can be handled, stored and shared. The government says it complies with the EU's General Data Protection Regulation, which came into effect in May 2018, and said an independent office will investigate data infringement. And President Edgar Lungu of Zambia says it's committed to ensuring the debt is contained within sustainable levels through continued austerity measures. Zambia, Africa's #2 copper producer, is struggling with high debt levels and shrinking foreign currency reserves, and the International Monetary Fund has said growth is likely to remain subdued over the medium term. Lungu said the government is implementing several policy measures to protect the vulnerable and reduce the cost of running the government. The government has suspended some infrastructure projects and was also curbing travel expenditure of senior officials. Lungu said the government was also trying to ensure that only genuine employees were on the public sector wage bill. Zambia has made progress in its energy sector reforms intended to leave fuel imports to the private sector and to increase electricity tariffs to cover the cost of producing the power. And the tech-enabled transportation market in Egypt is booming as different players, including global ride-hailing giant Uber, which has 90,000 active drivers in the country, compete in the increasingly crowded market. Operators say there is room for growth. Let's watch this.
Egypt's population will soon be swelling to 100 million, according to the authorities. Taxis, minibuses, tuk-tuks and motorbikes shuttle passengers and deliveries through crowded, sometimes chaotic streets. The biggest players are Careem and Uber, which had its IPO in May and posted a wider third-quarter loss on Monday as it tries to outspend competitors. The firms still operate separately despite their merger in March. Industry experts expect more mergers as startups try to gain market share for bus or motorbike services.
So for the region, I think the region is booming, and it's our job to make sure that we set this region in motion so that more opportunities are being seized, since we're already part of everyday's life. On the ride sharing, we have been here for more than 5 years. We already shaped this industry and we see opportunities in a lot of things. One, vehicle prices going up, not only vehicle prices, but the cost of running these vehicles. As you know, energy cost has been on the rise for the last couple of years. So we are here to do two things. One, complement public transportation and potentially change overall vehicle ownership behavior. We already saw that in other markets.
Egypt is among Uber's top 10 markets globally and is seen as a regional tech hub. Startups such as digital payments firm Fori have set up shop in a tech park outside Cairo. Tech-enabled food delivery is also expanding rapidly, where Uber Eats competes with Hallen, local startup Elmanus, Spanish startup Glovo, and Otlob. Germany's delivery hero bought Otlub in 2017 and has a stake in Glovo. Hallen uses motorbikes to deliver food, tuk-tuks for passenger transport and cargo tricycles for goods.
The geographical scope is Africa and the Middle East. We're hoping to, we have a Pan-Africa vision, we have a consumer-centric vision and a business vision. And ultimately, they all link together.
Despite the optimism around the sector, there are uncertainties. In September, Egypt's parliament passed a law governing ride-hailing apps that will require them to keep data for 6 months and share it with the government when asked. Earlier this year, Uber riders and drivers in Egypt faced technical difficulties with the Uber app, which two security forces said was linked to data sharing disputes with the authorities. Egyptian Competition Authority, ECA, is examining Uber's acquisition of Careem, and new entrants are still appearing.
And the second edition of the African Investment Forum opens today in Johannesburg, South Africa, with development finance institutions determined to tackle the continent's infrastructure investment challenges and advance Africa's economic transformation agenda. Now, the AIF is the African Development Bank's innovative marketplace event that brings together project sponsors, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, private investors, policymakers, private equity firms, and of course, heads of states. Now, this event is taking place in Sandton Convention Center in Johannesburg, and our correspondent, Katleho Lehodi, is at the event center and joins us now. Hello, Katleho. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon. Well, coming at a time South Africa is grappling with a lot of economic challenges, from high jobless rate to power outages and, of course, the xenophobic attacks. What is the general mood in the city of Johannesburg as this forum kickstarts today?
A very good afternoon to Chimezi. Today, of course, like you rightly stated, marks day one of the second edition of the Africa Investment Forum, the three-day event that is taking place at the Sandton Convention Center right here in Johannesburg is touted as a game changer to help channel well-needed capital flow into the African continent. Of course, the gathering comes as South Africa faces enormous challenges of high unemployment, inequality, power cuts, and of course the recent xenophobic attack. But I must say the general mood here is that of a positive outcome and optimistic, gathering here at the Sandton Convention Center. Delegates gathered here are in agreement that South Africa is not the only challenge, the only country that faces these challenges, and they're hoping that investments or pledges made here will help to address those challenges that you rightly listed above.
Now, this is the second edition of this forum. Last year, the forum attracted about 1,943 participants representing 87 countries and, of course, bringing together 400 investors from 52 countries. So what is the level of attendance in this year's forum, and what do the attendees hope to take away from this forum?
Well, the forum is, of course, organized by the African Development Bank and its partners, and is the largest, I must say, multi-stakeholder gathering aimed at raising capital, advancing projects to bankable stage, and accelerating financial closures of deals around the African continent. Well, Gauteng Premier David Makura, taking to the podium a little bit earlier, welcoming delegates here, he announced that over 2,000 delegates have registered to take part in this forum, the three-day forum, compared to the 1,800 that gathered here last year. And of course, the Premier saying that various countries have made representations, that including Nigeria.
Well, Katleho, I'm sure you have more updates for us subsequently in the day. Thank you for your time, and of course, enjoy your stay there in Sandton. And that's a wrap on the program. Thank you for watching. I'm Chimezi Obi Iwagu.